Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
I'm a fan of classic movies.
Hello and welcome to Overlapping Dialogue, a podcast of audio commentaries dedicated to discussing cinema that fascinates us in a way we hope fascinates you. We're your co-hosts, Kyle and Levi Huffman. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Levi.
And here we are for our inaugural episode, hopefully the first of many. And today we wanted to start off with something we're very familiar with, and we're relatively sure you're pretty familiar with as well. The 1993 Steven Spielberg classic. I'm not sure there's a kind of a time when you can officially call a movie a classic. You know,
I'd say this one is the time by now.
Yeah, I mean, we're all working on nearly 30 years now of Jurassic Park, which is, wildly popular film, especially of children of the 90s and even those in the 2000s, I know. This film really represents so much. It represents, a pretty sizable, dinosaur print of
definitely,
sorts, not only in Steven Spielberg's career, but really in the career of everyone, who worked on the film. And so we're going to just kind of start off doing some little intro stuff. Then we're going to have a little break, and then we're going to hit play and watch the movie with you. So Levi, why don't you run us down some basic facts?
Sure.
Things real quick about Jurassic Park.
Of course, it was directed by Steven Spielberg, and it was adapted from a novel written by Michael Crichton of the same name. It was adapted by Crichton and David Koepp. Is that how you say his name?
David Koepp.
Koepp, right? Yeah. Koepp, who's written a lot of different things.
Yeah, he's secretly, despite whatever Philip Bright might tell you, actually one of the more kind of important people, I think, in this era of Hollywood, because he actually, you can look at his credits, and he has a pretty big hand on some pretty big popular movies. Some not so good. He may
Premium
have been,
Rush,
I believe he wrote and directed Mordecai. The Jonathan Depp classic.
Jonathan Depp. Yeah.
A classic in quotes, italics, actually strike through on that. But nonetheless, he has a pretty sizable role in a lot of movies. So obviously some big cast members.
Yeah, so Sam Neill, who I didn't even know was actually from New Zealand until Hunt for the Wilder People, funny enough, and that was a shock. But Laura Dern, Goddess Laura Dern,
yes,
of course. Jeff Goldblum, Richard Attenborough, Bob Peck, Martin Ferrero, B.D. Wong, Samuel L. Jackson.
It should be said here, this was Samuel L. Jackson just before Pulp Fiction.
Right, and after Jungle Fever, I believe, would have been around that time. Wayne Knight.
90s hero.
Of course. We're going to probably be talking about Wayne Knight quite a bit today. Joseph Mazzello and Ariana Richards, and those were the two children, I believe, in the movie. As far as
what's the release date?
It would have been June 9th, 1993 at the Uptown Theater, which is, I'm assuming, in California. Nope, it's in Washington, D.C.
Was the premiere.
The premiere, and then June 11th for general theaters in the United States. It's about 128 minutes. It was made for $63 million, which is quite a bit of money, obviously.
At the time, that was among the highest budgets.
Right, but it also was the highest-grossing movie of all time at that time because it made $912.7 million worldwide.
Which, it should be said, that's, the closest a film at that point, obviously, had ever gotten to $1 billion.
Right, and it would be followed up by Titanic.
Which I think we're going to talk a little bit about as we watch this, because one thing that always sticks out to me and to you, and I think many's about Jurassic Park, is it kind of was in the golden age of these 90s special effects pictures.
Right.
This, Terminator 2, Titanic.
Right. A lot of these were
of those were James Cameron.
Right. A lot of these were Dennis Muren and ILM, Industrial Light and Magic companies. And obviously, as far as special effects movies go, the two movies I think of that I think have the best special effects, the first one I think has the best special effects that hold up forever is Terminator 2. Partially because we read an article leading up to this kind of talking about a lot of these things that used a lot more animatronics than CG at the time, and it used CG a little more sparingly. This one was a little more heavy on the CG and a little less on the animatronics, but it still used a lot of animatronics, but both were Dennis Muren things. But I think this one is one of them too, but obviously dealing with animals that are not supposed to look like human beings, I think it makes it look a little more dated.
Right.
In the sense that Terminator 2 just looks, because it's robots that are supposed to be like human beings, so it can look a little bit less good anyway.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and people have went back now, and there's actually been a lot of dinosaur scholarship ever since this movie,
Right.
obviously. And this movie was obviously, at this point, the most realistic depiction of dinosaurs on screen, especially in a big mainstream fashion. And, you know, growing up in the 90s, you know, if you saw a dinosaur book as a kid or dinosaur, you know, a lot of kids grow up loving dinosaurs.
Right.
So much of that for 90s kids, like myself being born in 92, you were in 98, so not too far behind. Every time you see dinosaurs, you think of this movie. This movie, for whole generations of people, come to define what dinosaurs were.
Right.
And, of course, it's a work of science fiction, but it really captivated, you know, the imaginations of so many children and adults as well. We actually know of a few adults who, at the time, friends of our father, who were captivated by it.
Right.
Valentine's, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shout out to Valentine.
Right. He's a friend of our dad's that rode motorcycles with him, that he was apparently very enamored with the movie, which that was a thing with many people. The special effects were so advanced, I think it was really a shock to the system. Which, of course, we read also that people have kind of gone back and seen, and we can kind of, I guess, talk about Spielberg a little bit now, what we think of Spielberg, but that some people have looked back and said, oh, well, Steven Spielberg kind of ruined movies with Jaws and Jurassic Park, that these blockbusters are using special effects, and obviously Jaws was far more rudimentary 1970s special effects, but especially Jurassic Park kind of made special effects part of, you know, the summer blockbuster to a point where they're all CG now. Although, really, I feel like that would be something that should actually be laid a little more at the feet of people like Peter Jackson and George Lucas in the early 2000s, with heavily using that. But I guess that was also because this was
That's
such a
another
big part
thing
of
that's
that,
kind of historically, a specter implies a much more negative term than I think I would mean it. But the specter that does hang over this movie is how CGI is going to transform movies over the next 10, 15 years from this point. And talking about special effects movies of the 90s, of course, at the end of the 90s into the early 2000s, Star Wars formally returned back from the dead for so many years with the prequels. And those films get a bad rap, of course, because of the CGI that they used. Although, if you go back and watch Phantom Menace, of course, it's going to have more effects than this, but it was actually among the more practical, of course, of all of those three movies. So what we're seeing here is almost in real time an industry in transition, right? It's an industry that is, you know, has for the first time some of the digital tools that previous effects films just never had.
Right.
But, and going back to the criticism, you think that, and I agree, many people level a lot of Spielberg. Spielberg is a individual in Hollywood's history, and as Spielberg films have come out, that, oh, he's kind of pulled the industry in the wrong direction. But I think that's not true for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
One of which, he's a master filmmaker. He's made plenty of films that had nothing to do with special effects. Just recently thinking about some of his movies, you know, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies, much more historically based. A little bit before that, of course, you had Catch Me If You Can. And even what this is coming off of, was after, of course, that all that huge success he had in the early 80s. You're talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, you're talking about E.T., and it should be said that this was the highest grossing film since E.T. And so E.T. had lasted for that long, almost 10 years plus, as the box office champ. That, you know, over the mid to late 80s, Spielberg had actually started to make more films that he was criticized for not making earlier, right? He made, I haven't even seen it yet, but I know Always, Empire of the Sun. He started to go in a more of a direction to say, oh, I can make a drama, even though people don't expect me to do that. And I think some of that experience plays off here in terms of the human characters, obviously. we read a lot of the reviews heading into this film, and so many of them, of course, are going to fixate on the effects, the dinosaurs, this and that. But of course, you've got Sam Neill, you've got Laura Dern, you've got Jeff Goldblum, you've got a lot of talented actors who make us care about these characters, and characters that on the page, sure, they're not going to be the most in-depth, fully realized people, but that's why you get the charismatic actors that you get.
Right.
And more than anything, they represent also science itself questioning, obviously, the value of what this whole undertaking is. The film's almost answering its critics in real time in terms of people who are going to criticize this as just empty fluff, as, maybe we should have stopped and thought about it before we did it, to paraphrase Goldblum's famous quote. So he's almost jumping ahead and answering what some of the criticisms of this film are going to be actually in the film itself.
Yeah. Interestingly, too, I think one thing that I found, just to talk about the reviews that we read in general, we read about 4 or 5 kind of from like Ebert, Travers, Maslin, a lot of, some of those kind of main people, that every single one of those I read, at least in some way, referred to the idea of this is going to be a big, going to sell a lot of toys and going to sell a lot of merchandising. And it's like they were kind of disgusted by that moment that we're probably going to laugh at when we see it in the movie, of that one shot of all the toys and lunch boxes and like Jurassic Park merchandise that's actually at the park. And that they were so, kind of, I feel like shocked by that, or almost like, oh, this is going to be a thing that's going to be happening forever now. Which, and also just, quickly to say about that, also that's something you could probably put at the feet of George Lucas again with Star Wars as far as heavy merchandising in movies. I think that was kind of the first movies to really do that in a big way, other than maybe you had smaller versions of that with like the Planet of the Apes films, but of course I have to bring that up because I'm a big fan of the Planet of the Apes movies. But so there's that, but also that in those reviews it seemed like everybody was saying, yeah, it's good, like, it's a fine enough fun movie, but they were either complaining about the hollowness of the characters or that merchandising thing, or that it wasn't as good as the book or whatever.
Yeah, which again, we'll maybe make this the last note before we really stop and really get into this movie, because there's a lot of things to talk about in the movie itself. You have read the book.
Yes.
Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. You've read some other Michael Crichton books. Yeah. Loosely speaking, I know it might have been some years since you've read it, but
been a
how does it, what's this translation? Is it faithful? What changes does it make? Do you really remember? Are those changes for the better or the worse in your memory?
Well, with any book to movie adaptation, and first of all, I'll say the Jurassic Park novel is quite good. The biggest difference between the two that I can remember is that it's far more about the technology and far more about the moral questions, which I feel like the movie does parse those very well, and especially about the espionage plot. It's a lot more concerned with the Dennis Nedry, Dodgson, we've got Dodgson here stuff in the book. And also that there's just a lot of certain characters that die, certain characters that don't. Hammond famously dies very violently at the end of the novel. And another big difference between the book and the movie is that Hammond is straight up an evil person in the book. Like, he isn't even the kind of fatherly, almost like Santa Claus-esque Richard Attenborough, of course, would play Santa Claus in the Miracle on 34th Street version, but in the 90s. But
yeah, and all I can speak of is the movie. I think he perfectly plays this because he plays it as this guy who's obviously, he's almost like this jolly Santa Claus-like figure in this, that he really wants. He's like almost a Walt Disney or a just some kind of this great happy creator who is aware of some of the questions of this, but he's got his kind of this pie in the sky attitude and mentality, and that he's kind of looking at this fully as the glass half full of what this park can be. And of course that doesn't work out for him. And I think we'll get to it. One of the last moments of the film is really, for me, among the most, believe it or not, effective moments of, and I say effective with an A here, moments of Spielberg's career, in terms of this sense of loss that he feels that this dream that he had went up in smoke, effectively.
Another big difference about the novel too. Well, his death, funny enough, he died. I don't even remember if they're in this movie or not, but they're these little dinosaurs called compies. They have a longer name that starts with a P. I don't give a crap because I don't care about dinosaur names, but that it's like these little ones that they look like little chickens, basically, or little ostriches, kind of, and they like basically maul him to death and eat him or whatever. But then also, they literally napalm the whole island when they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets out, but then they bomb it, because then there's this whole section that's going on where they're going down in below some of the buildings into, it's almost like the ending of Aliens, if you remember that, where they she goes back in, goes down this elevator, and that's where the queen is, or whatever. It's kind of similar to that, that they go down there and there's all these velociraptor nests and stuff, and I think they blow some of those up or something. It's a way different ending that is far more like anything. I find this a lot with Stephen King adaptations too. It's good in the novel, but when you're going to transfer these things to a book, I think, or to a film, rather, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Now I think it's a lot better to have the ending of this as well. One thing I thought was funny too, I don't remember who said this. It might have been Janet Maslin, but I don't remember exactly. Referred to that ending and said, "Oh, but they kind of left the island to sit so they could have more sequels," which I think is hilarious, that people recognize that at the time. But
which, of course, funny enough, the sequels actually pull on. Oh, there were a whole other islands.
And that's the same thing as the Lost World. I read half of that, the novel sequel, The Lost World. I only read about half of that, and it was whatever. I didn't.
Which isn't Goldblum's character killed
in the
book?
That's what I was going to say. So there are a lot of characters that die in the book. Samuel L. Jackson's character doesn't die in the book.
Yeah, he holds on to his book.
I think Muldoon lives too. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that live randomly, and then Malcolm, the Goldblum character, dies, but then they bring him back in the sequel, he lived, and then also in the novel and the movie too, but he just definitively lives in the movie, But and then I think Gennaro, the blood-sucking lawyer, who dies, one of my favorite deaths in any movie, in this movie, who lives in the book and then dies between books of cancer. A lot of really weird differences there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall the book, it's actually a pretty faithful adaptation. They're in memory. I haven't read it in a while, so it's been a little while. But the other big difference is Land Rovers instead of Jeeps, I guess. But it's a good book. It wasn't one of my more favorite Crichton books. I think it would be up there, but it's not my favorite.
Well, we should say also briefly that this isn't even the first Crichton version of this story.
No,
of course, there's Westworld came even before that, which we've both seen that film.
I wasn't as big of a fan of that movie. It was okay at the time. I'm just kind of question Yul Brynner as a whole thing in cinema anyway. And also the show is trash. So, but
we gave it a lot of chances.
Well, Kyle especially did, because I think I gave up even before that, because they started doing Samurai World, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be so cool, and then it was even dumber than you could ever imagine. And now they're doing. I guess what are they on the 4th season now? They're gonna be doing or something.
Yeah, I believe.
Who cares?
Well, last thing I think we should say before we do this, we can't talk about this movie in this moment, I don't think, without acknowledging that this was one of 2 films that Spielberg released in 1993.
Right.
The other, of course, was Schindler's List.
Can anybody have had a bigger year than that?
You had a filmmaker who released a film that literally was the highest-grossing film of all time. Okay.
Yeah.
And despite some critical quibbles, was pretty beloved.
Yeah.
Not, of course, by mainstream audiences, but even by critics respected that.
Yeah, right.
And then to make kind of the movie that, talking about what people associate the dinosaurs with, Jurassic Park, of a certain generation of people, if you bring up the Holocaust, Schindler's List is almost synonymous with it in terms of defining for not only America, but for a lot of Western audiences, what that looks like on film. Now, of course, it wasn't the first movie made about the Holocaust, but it was a very, very formative film that was critically successful, won him Academy Awards that had kind of by that point he had not won really,
right?
And because he had always, you make these popcorn movies, you don't make these serious dramas, and that movie it's successful in kind of these bread and butter. It made money, it won Academy Awards, but is also an incredible film. It should be said above all else, that does depict horrific events of the Holocaust,
Right.
and so the fact that he was able to have those in the same year
Yeah,
is just astounding.
Yeah, and it's interesting what it's and I feel like there actually is a human connection in this movie in Jurassic Park. I feel like I am interested enough in the characters. But if you had to complain about that, it's like, well, maybe he was putting all that into one of the most human films ever made with Schindler's List.
And I know that I think in the whole process that he had shot the stuff from this first in Hawaii principally,
Right.
and that he scheduled it to do this before that.
Yeah.
Because he was aware of what an experience that was going to be to make, and he's like, I want to have the fun of this movie before.
That was heavily
I go and
covered
make
in that
that.
Spielberg documentary that HBO, I think, put out,
Yeah.
or well, it at least played on HBO. I don't remember if they put it out, but anyway, yeah.
And I
that
think
was
he
a
went to
section
Europe
about
to
that.
shoot that as they were doing a lot of the effects work
Right.
for this, and kind of
Yeah.
he was overseeing that from afar.
I can't even imagine making these two. I mean, I can't imagine making a movie at all, let alone two movies like this. And I think that Spielberg is really just is in the top 3 best filmmakers of all time. But when you really think about just his biggest accomplishment overall, I mean, you have his best movie, I think, is Jaws, and or the other films that are really great, but that just to even do these two types of movies in the same year and they both be as great as they are is such an accomplishment that can only really be rivaled by something like, I guess, Mel Brooks' 1974 with Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, but both of those are similar types of movies, so they're not as different as those.
And then, I mean, even in the 90s, we need to wrap this up soon
Yeah.
before we start this movie,
Sure.
but in the 90s later on, he would win Best Director again for Saving Private Ryan.
Right,
So that,
which is
of course,
right.
this is not even, he was out of steam in the 90s. He's
Yeah.
going to be going to make some other things. So I think we're going to talk about Spielberg as we do this and this film's place in his career and his future. But rest assured, we're both huge fans, I believe, to Spielberg. And just also briefly, I mean, the last thing we'll say, I think we'll probably speak for both those. What's your relationship to this film?
I have no memory at all of when I first saw it. Like a lot of movies, this Jaws, the Star Wars movies, Batman movies, a lot of those Tim Burton movies. I had no memory at all when I first saw it. I think we said kind of in the original our introductory podcast about how we don't. That we watched it on those like VHSs that were like, you had 2 that came in it, and it was like that and a little documentary about it. I remember seeing this one a lot, but not as much as Jaws. But yeah, I mean, I have no memory of when I first saw it, but I've always loved it. I feel like I've loved it more as I've gotten older. Because I was actually somebody that, I'm not even really saying this, I was never really that into dinosaurs when I was younger. I was never kind of a dinosaur kid. I was much more interested in sharks, actually, because I love Jaws as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
But this, I mean, I love this movie, and seeing dinosaurs like that, it was just very cool and interesting and very entertaining movie. I think
I've seen this, we've seen it at various points over the last few
Yeah.
years. Holds up really well.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, some of the effects you can look at they're a little, but we don't watch
Right.
movies looking
No.
for that exactly. So
No.
it just as an entertainment, it's as well oiled as it can be.
Absolutely.
I think, really. So, all right, we're gonna pause temporarily, and we'll be right back, and we're gonna get into 1993's Jurassic Park.
There it is. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
We've made living biological attractions so astounding that they'll capture the imagination of the entire planet.
The most phenomenal discovery of our time
How'd you do this?
becomes the greatest adventure of all time.
Can I touch it?
Sure.
Universal Pictures presents
You feel that?
Hold on to your butts.
a Steven Spielberg film.
Fences are failing all over the park.
Yeah, that's nice. Gotta go.
An adventure
I can't get Jurassic Park back online.
65 million years in the making. Jurassic Park.
And we're back, and we're gonna hit plays and plays. Oh no, this is not a theater podcast. They respect theater. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it should be said, this is the...
PG-13 for intense science fiction terror.
That's a new one. Intense science fiction terror. Should be said also, this is a film. I can't quite remember what I was going to say.
Well,
but, you know, I like the move not to go for the Universal theme here.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, Universal always winning with their logos over time, all kinds of different versions of that. You have this with the kind of opening with the jungle sound. You have Jaws with the weird, like, whatever those sounds are. I don't even know what that
Got
is.
a clean title card. Now, obviously, we're listening to some John Williams music, which, you know, John Williams and Steven Spielberg, such a historical connection over the years. For you, where does this rank in terms of John Williams, specifically his Spielberg scores?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I mean, it's great. I think about it a lot because I always joke about how the you can take the Superman animated series theme and hum it, and it will turn into this theme very quickly if you do it kind of a certain way. It's a good one. I mean, I think Jaws is probably my favorite score from any movie.
I'd say this is, as far as the traditional, stereotypical main John Williams themes, I'd rank this very, very highly. I'd say like a top 3 maybe. But
yeah, probably.
Now, I think a good thing, you know, this film is known for its CGI, but very early on, it's opening up with that Jaws-esque, like, we're not going to show you fully what this is. We're going to draw the mystery out, which, of course, Jaws had a huge, you know, was known for that.
Isla Nublar, 120 miles west of Costa Rica.
Which it should be said, you know, in Jaws, they were hiding the shark for so long because they had so many mechanical problems with it. They certainly had all the resources at this point, but he's still opting for that pull back, and we're not going to give it all to you at once, you know.
Very strange opening set piece here that's always been memorable to me. I think this image of the guy getting, like, pulled is so terrifying here.
And also, you know, this first scene establishes this movie kind of has a reputation as an adventure film, but in every adventure film in some ways is also a horror film, and I feel like this opening kind of
especially
that.
movies like this, the kind of Spielberg-type movies like that.
No, poor Joffrey.
Yeah.
Joffrey PH.
Yeah. Not the...
suspenseful instrumental music intensifies.
Yeah, we're watching this with subtitles. I was going to say Creature Shrieking. Yeah.
And I meant to say earlier, we're watching this on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Which
because
looks,
physical media.
Yeah. Screaming.
Now that's just screwed up right there.
You know, at this point, it would be better for this guy just to be killed and eaten, I think. I know they're trying to save him, but you're going to be losing your legs and
shoot her.
God knows what else. Using the proper pronouns.
This shot of the eye and him looking at it, and this is like, I have seen my villain, like, you know. I mean, everybody has their own antagonist. And, Joffrey screaming.
So, R.I.P. to Joffrey, our first casualty.
And
now coming up with another future casualty.
Yeah. Who I've always thought this guy looks like Don DeLillo, mixed with, of course, oh gosh, what's his name?
Well, we've said David Strathairn also.
David Strathairn, that's what I was trying to think of his name. I couldn't think of it for a second. Yeah. Miguel Sandoval, as always. Always great to see him show up.
It had a big moment in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, mostly in a lot of those Alex Cox movies, and was in that one episode of Seinfeld with the cockfighting. He was like the cockfighter guy. All-time sunglasses game on him in that episode. Yeah, Miguel Sandoval is always great. Oh, and also, yeah, of course, in Do the Right Thing, I always
one of the
forget
cops.
he was in right.
This is always, you know, there's always a reputation of the Spielberg oneer that he's kind of got the characters kind of moving through the frame in the foreground, and all this action going on in the background, which he's very skilled at world building in that way.
Right. The way this guy talks makes me laugh. I have 2 experts sign off on the island.
I mean, it's immediately established, and we want this guy to die.
Yeah, because he didn't die in the novel, like I said, which is interesting. He, like, lives to the whole thing.
Maybe this is like Spielberg's like way of getting back at the various lawyers who have held down him over the years.
Of course.
Immediately establishes Amber.
Yeah.
As we're gonna. That's
Amber
how
Alert.
we're gonna. Amber Alert.
Shouldn't make fun of that, but
a bad a giggle here and there ain't too bad. I did want to talk. This is the first time.
Badlands, as Springsteen would have
This
said.
is our first time seeing this after Until the End of the World, which is a very kind of great Sam Neill performance.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Oh
towards the
yeah,
front of
I
that,
kind of forget he's in that, and he's one of the best things
he's
about
the
it.
narrator of the film
Right.
and plays a crucial role in the movie, even though
might
he's not
do,
one of the main two characters.
Yeah. Might have to do a commentary of that someday.
But
that's a great
I mean,
movie.
I've always liked Sam Neill a lot, but that's a random little gem. I think he's super good.
So where do we rank Badlands as the actual place, this moment in this film, Badlands the film, and the Springsteen song? Now, Springsteen song's last, of course.
Levi, we should establish now, is not a huge Springsteen fan.
Not a huge one. I don't dislike him as much as I used to, but anyway.
I think maybe the actual place.
Yeah, because it's, more
I mean, we've never been, but,
Right. Oh, yeah, I haven't, no. But, love to go, but...
It should be noted that in the Peter Travers review for this film, which we read for the Rolling Stone, he referred to...
You mean Mr. Smart, Sexy, and Seriously Funny?
He referred to Neil as Indiana Bones.
Oh, wow.
Which,
Yeah.
Travers is a very deeply corny man, and I say this as a corny man myself,
Right.
but, like, one of, great little line from him. Of course, we got the great Laura Dern, who's, love her independently, but also... huge David Lynch fans. Plays a crucial role.
Also
in
love
much of
her father, Bruce Dern.
Bruce Dern, yeah.
All time. I mean, can't a girl have a moment?
As she once asked in Big Little Lies. It's kind of interesting, too, that even in the film is setting up at this time of paleontology, that digital technology is also playing a role just in their,
Yeah, because I was going to
understanding
say this a little earlier. This is kind of almost they talked a lot about in these reviews, and everybody's talked about this is kind of the uses the model of the old monster run amok film. You had, of course, the Lost World from the 1920s. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
I don't remember anything about it other than that I saw it. It kind of has the climax is kind of copied in the Lost World sequel, the movie sequel to this. But anyway, it's like in the vein of a lot of those like King Kong, a lot of Ray Harryhausen type dinosaur films that were made in the 40s and 50s. That type of thing.
Which,
so,
of course, played, I know were influential to Spielberg. I know,
right.
like, growing up.
And so, in the same way, this is kind of both first for technology and also first for, like I said, a lot of kids becoming interested in these types of movies or in dinosaurs, was being able to actually see them as they would more likely look.
It should be said also here that it's establishing, Grant's kind of dislike of children.
Dislike of technology, dislike of children, dislike baby smell. I mean,
but of course,
that all
he's gonna change.
I mean, the interactive CD-ROM really changes his mind.
That's first class for him. So he's like, well, we gotta bump it up.
Can't even use like seat belts, as we'll see later. Spill your guts. Spill your test. What a freak. Which this kid's kind of a freak.
You are alive when they start to eat you. Try to show a little respect.
Punk.
Poor kid. I mean, he was just kind of kidding around, and I'd say he's a kid. You kid around,
Yeah.
Well, shots fired. Don't want that bum. He's got both got great fits.
Oh,
should be
of course.
said. I mean, Dern with the denim on denim, and then him with the plaid and the khakis and the hat and the glasses.
I love the symbolism of this. It's just like destroying the old ways. Like, does that really matter all that much? It's not like it's going to blow it all out, but they got to dig it up anyway.
Yeah. It's just part of the war on science.
I just don't care about science. Social studies
I mean,
teacher, I'm
we're,
just like,
you know,
science.
as a current social studies teacher and a soon-to-be future one, you know, science, yeah, we need it, but all-time great character intro.
We should say about this scene really quickly. We watched this at Lumina in Wilmington. Me and you did that one time. And this scene, the sound cut out, and a guy just yelled, "We were saving that" at the exact moment. And it was just amazing. But anyway, what do we have to say about Richard Attenborough's
I was just going to say, this character in this, he's literally digging through their refrigerator when they walk in, just like, you know, like, who are you again?
Yeah.
Which I think he just said that he had given them like this $50,000 grant, so it's establishing the grant to the grant, you know.
Right. Give not.
But yeah, I just think you couldn't have picked a better person for this role than Attenborough, because he's like this, you know, your happy-go-lucky grandfather. Should also be said that when Attenborough won the Oscar for Gandhi in 1983, that I think he said something to the effect that he thought E.T. should have won, or that he thought E.T. was a great film. Which I'm not sure of this history between him and Spielberg, but I'm sure that's something Spielberg obviously took and treasured and remembered. And of course, here he is in this.
Yeah,
for no expense, by the way.
We're gonna be saying that a lot here. Like I said, I mean, in the novel, of course, he's the more evil version, but I think it works better in the movie that he's almost ignorant in a sense. He's more like, oh, I just am wanting to do this thing, and it's like even worse, I think, in a way that he doesn't even really know what he's doing almost.
Well, also what's bad about it is that in some ways is that he's not a younger, in his 30s or 40s industrialist entrepreneur, that he's at the end of the road, and this kind of is the investment of his life is this park and this endeavor. And spoiler alert, the way it resolves itself is less than satisfactory, to say the least. So that's kind of his tragedy of this movie, is that arc that he goes through. Again,
schedule.
Yeah, how giddy he is, and also, I mean, the fit from him here. I mean, got the Panama hat.
Always love a Panama hat. Soft instrumental music.
We were saying something about this earlier when we were testing this, that the universal subtitles actually orient themselves around where the characters are. Or the actors.
Yeah, like I was saying, they did that a lot with the Universal horror movies when they put them on DVD, those kind of legacy collection sets. They did that with us. The first time I ever noticed that, because I watched those a lot. But, yeah, I really like the way
Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Right.
But it just ended. Actually, right when this movie would have premiered. I'm currently going through Cheers.
The one thing I have, the first thing we need to say...
Lively Mexican music playing.
San Jose, Costa Rica. First thing we need to say about this Dodson guy, didn't this guy get Me Too'd or something, this actor?
So something... I don't even want to go this far. It was like a murder or something really out there.
Wow.
Well, I might be making that up. It's some sort of assault.
I don't remember what the
very least.
Anyway, the funny thing about the Dodson character to me is that he is like the villain of the book sequel.
He's such an afterthought in this.
Right.
He's barely a character. I mean,
What to say about Wayne Knight?
Wayne Knight, 90s icon. A lot of 90s icons, but... This, Seinfeld,
Toy Story 2,
Basic
2,
Instinct. I mean, Rat Race,
JFK,
Rat Race, which JFK we definitely will be doing on this pod eventually.
Course, one of my favorite.
And then also to clap it off, was this in 2000? I can't remember. My Favorite Martian. He was the voice of Zoot.
Oh, right. I don't remember what year that was. It was the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. This is, by the way, when we're recording this, is just the Friday after the inauguration of Biden. Oh, wait. We got to see this moment.
Just a squeal here.
Which is just not even realistic. But yeah, so Joe Biden was just inaugurated as 46th president of the United States on Wednesday. Thank God.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been seeing a lot of these Bernie sitting with his mittens memes, which are really annoying.
They're probably still out there as you're hearing this, whenever that is.
But my favorite one I've seen is him sitting like Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct, and then like a reaction shot of him looking at him. And it's probably my favorite one I've seen because I've loathed most of them. But anyway, just had to bring that up.
Adventurous instrumental music. I'll say this real quick. Have you seen this film on the big screen? I guess we saw it.
No, not other than that.
Me and a good friend, college roommate Ian Fincham, we actually saw it when it the 20th
I didn't
anniversary.
Get to see that. Yeah, when they did
3D,
the 3D,
which we could care less about the 3D. Just we want to see it. And shout out to Ian. Hopefully you're hearing this, Ian. He actually did some full-on Alan Grant cosplay, where he had basically this exact fit right here of the hat. He even had the like red bandana around the neck and the blue shirt and the khakis. Great job by Ian.
So,
and here we got Goldblum. Should be said.
What's there to say about Jeff Goldblum other than great? I mean,
End of the Night.
Very strange man.
He is, yeah.
In a lot of great things. We actually just recently watched the Alan Rudolph movie, Remember My Name. Well, a very, very interesting performance in that film.
He's only got like 2, 3, 4 scenes.
Yeah, and there's like a random... was that random moment of him looking at his picture of his mother, and it took it really seriously, and it's like, why would we care about that? But anyway, really good, quite good movie there, by the way.
It is.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, Jeff Goldblum... we'll be doing End of the Night on this show at some point.
That's my personal, probably favorite movie he's done. Yeah. This is up there as well.
Favorite John Landis movie, definitively.
I mean, also Annie Hall. He's got this one scene.
Oh, I forgot
my
that.
mantra.
Yeah. So this is where you could take it and turn it from the Superman animated series and turn it into this. Which is a random thing I bring up more than I should.
And as I said, I believe most of this was shot in Hawaii.
Yeah, I think they shot some in California. That was probably the like studio like stuff where they like that they shot for the what do you call it? The
Yahoo.com.
The Yahoo.com. Yeah.
I still have Yahoo email, by the way.
Oh,
I never use Yahoo really, other than the email.
Yeah. What was I talking about there? Oh, the other than they probably the stuff they filmed in California was probably like the control room stuff, I would assume, but yeah, all this stuff would have been in Hawaii, where they film everything. It seems like.
I just love this this small character moment from Grant. He can't get the seatbelt, so he's like, you know what? I'm just going to tie this thing. And his obviously killer survival instincts by him, as we'll see over the course of this movie. Beautiful scenery.
Yep, as always, Hawaii.
We've never been to Hawaii, but I'd love to go.
It'd be a nice place to go. Furthest west I've been is Nashville.
I've barely got you beat with like
Alabama.
Mississippi and Alabama.
Oh, you've been to Mississippi. Yeah, that's right.
This is almost the exact same shot we'll see towards
at the end
as
where
he's leaving.
It's kind of a different vibe.
Yeah. All-time walking cane, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Already they got the merchandising on lock.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that the whole time, especially to adventurous instrumental music. Spared no expense.
Yeah. Even the,
lot
Dinosaur
of
Island
cages,
has the police state.
Yeah, a lot of cages, a lot of fencing. Never a good sign.
It's like, we have to have all these fences and cages
right.
for people to have fun. Is that really? That should be, red alert number 1 that this might not be a great idea, but,
We could probably talk about this later, but I figured I'd bring it up now. What do you think about the sequels to these movies in general?
So, I actually like the second one fine, Lost World.
I haven't seen
I think
that in a
one
long
is an
time,
interesting
so.
example of taking a side character and making him the main character of the movie. In that case, it's Goldblum.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always work out exactly as well as you would think it would. It's still good, but it's not quite as good as
48 hours, he's going to be accepting his apology.
But that second one has some really solid sequences in it.
Yeah.
The one of the
that like
bus or basically trailer hanging
like
over the side of like a cliff. That's awesome. It does jump the shark a little bit though in terms of like, the dinosaurs get brought back to like a modern city. I don't remember if it was like San Diego.
Yeah, like I
or
said,
where it
that's
was,
basically a repeat of the climax of the original Lost World movie.
The third one, I don't really like at all. I don't really care. I mean, I don't hate it either necessarily. I just don't really care for it. It does have that ultra weird sequence of
the Velociraptor on the airplane.
Yeah,
that's weird.
We should stop and pause and kind of. This is one of the biggest, most memorable, iconic moments from the film, of course. When and the Spielberg face, kind of a popular thing of characters opening their mouths and looking at this grand thing, happens in a lot of Spielberg films. And of course, it's seeing this dinosaur in the kind of almost in flesh for the first time, not only for the characters but for the audience as well. And Sam Neill pioneering a lot of the great acting that Ewan McGregor will then turn in the prequels in terms of really trying your hardest at something that's not there.
This driver looks kind of like John Sayles.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've never understood any of the things he says in this whole moment until now because I'm actually being able to see it.
They're the subtitles.
Because he's like,
yeah.
Sweeping instrumental music.
We're gonna make a fortune with this place.
Of course, to stand in for the producers of this film.
And the many dead that will lie in their wake.
Well, we clocked the T-Rex to 32 miles an hour.
This is a great shot right here.
Yeah.
You have a T-Rex.
We have a T-Rex.
It's like, you fools.
To Jurassic Park.
Sweeping instrumental music continues. More dinosaurs of whose name I don't remember.
Yeah. If you're coming to this podcast looking for dinosaur experts, you're in the wrong place.
I could give a crap.
No disrespect to those who are. We just don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I mean, if that interests you, whatever. As we're gonna see, hopefully, this would be maybe a spoiler if you could figure it out. Certain movies we're gonna do soon. There are a lot of these movies that say, "I'll show you." Two specific, this one and another movie that we might be doing soon that has a different timbre or pitch to the "I'll show you." But
but to return briefly to the discussion of the sequels, Jurassic World. As I was watching the film, I liked fine enough, but immediately faded from memory.
I heard that sequel was pretty awful.
Yeah, and neither one of us saw the sequel.
I didn't see it.
And it should be said that that Jurassic World. It was, I believe, the first film to have a $500 million weekend, I believe, at that time, globally. And so, this franchise has always stood, in some ways, for where the industry is at that time in terms of what the standards are.
Right.
Later on that year, Force Awakens would kind of break that record. But, I think this is this franchise, and even though the second one's, I think, is good, the fact that it's a franchise is its own problem. I mean, because the specificity of what this first film story is almost is saying, we kind of said it all, with what this was trying to be,
and we shouldn't ever do that again. But what a strange sequence this is.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of people that, with the sequel, say, people really come to this? How dangerous this would be? I think this year has been very much open season on any of those assumptions because of people's willful ignorance of either science and or common sense. So,
hello, John. Yeah. Makes sense.
So we get our little educational film.
Dino DNA. no, Mr. DNA, where did you come from? That's like a redneck DNA cell. I mean, we would know.
He ate some beans or something.
Great shot.
Dinosaurs.
What if they had instead done tried to do the voice of like Jackie Gleason in Smokey and the Bandit?
Yeah, Sheriff Buford T. Justice.
These dinosaurs gonna have a Diablo sandwich before we go see
Dr. Pepper.
Go see the raptors.
We're in a gosh dang hurry. Like, I mean, I think most things can use more Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
Amber.
Amber.
As you said, Amber Alert. Which, again, we shouldn't joke about, but here we are yet again.
Shouldn't joke about. Sophisticated.
I wonder what it's like to have been that guy in that moment, the actor, and like, oh, I'm in Jurassic Park, and then like big moment comes up, that's it, and about all your friends, and they think you got a big part, and then oh, there you are. And
it's like those things where it's like you'll win to be in this movie, and you're in like you're not in it basically. Yeah. Now, I haven't seen the original Ben-Hur, like the 20s Ben-Hur, but it's like if you go look on the Letterboxd page for that or anywhere, it says like, Clark Gable, uncredited, and it's like, yeah, where would you ever see him in that? Yeah. Like, it's, oh, we just know he was in it. Like, yeah, it's just weird, stuff like that. Code!
It's like how, well, this is different, but I think like Raoul Walsh plays like John Wilkes Booth in Birth of a Nation.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Which, let me phrase this carefully. Raoul Walsh hero, John Wilkes Booth not.
Right.
But, you know. Look here. Like the, you know, like a rustic DNA strand.
Yeah.
You know? He's from a more rural environment, not an urban DNA strand.
Autoerotica? No. He's. I don't even know what that is. Of course, B.D. Wong, who would reappear in Jurassic World, didn't he die in that or something? Or am I misremembering that?
I don't remember. Did he get away on a helicopter? Something?
It's kind of a ride. There was something involving a helicopter. I don't remember if the helicopter even got away. You know, the thing I remember the most about Jurassic World is the Jimmy Buffett cameo, which is
at Margaritaville,
right?
You know.
And he's running with his margaritas. Now, he had a far better cameo, well, basically role in The Beach Bum as himself.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah, because isn't he officially credited as himself in Jurassic World or whatever?
Yeah,
I think he's
which is weird,
himself.
but it's funny. He's not credited as himself in The Beach Bum. He's credited as Jimmy Buffett. Like, he's Jimmy Buffett, a character, I guess.
Okay.
I could care less in any way about Jimmy Buffett, but, you know,
yeah,
always just needs to be mentioned.
This is obviously clearly one of those animatronics moments, not CGI. So I believe Stan Winston, I think he probably did some of the work for this.
He does it all, yeah. Push. Sounds like us talking to our cats.
And this is I think this is a dichotomy of the whole movie too. It's like this moment is treated as like beautiful and awe-inspiring, but then looking at what is coming out, it's like a cute little, but it's like it's got blood on it. It's got these teeth. It's immediately kind of like, this thing has
squealing.
It does not fit into the realm of the 20th century. You know what I mean? It's he sees himself as the father, of course, of all these.
The father.
There's no unauthorized breeding in Jurassic Park. And how do you know they can't breed?
The only one asking the questions.
The future of Jurassic Park is female.
But as we will learn,
They find
DNA
life
is gonna
finds a way.
Screw them over. Yeah. And he's already like,
You know he's a bad boy because he wears a black leather
Yeah.
jacket, you know.
Really not that difficult. All vertebrate embryos are inherently female anyway. They just require an extra hormone given at the right developmental stage to make them male. We simply deny them that. So I'm trying to control your tempting
Is
possible. Life will not be contained. Life breaks free, expands to new territories, and crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously,
Is it Goldblum and Christopher Walken ever been in something together?
oh, I would love to see that. That kind of see, because I also misremembered, because they're both in Annie Hall, I guess.
Well, that's true, but
Because
yeah.
that's what I was thinking. It was like sometimes I get those roles mixed up, but
He's only got like a scene in that, but he's like he's a certified freak 7 days a week in that.
yeah.
As the song told us. He's like, yeah, so what?
It's weird that BD Wong's acting there is both like, yeah, and like, oh yeah, like
It's less playing to what the character would be doing and more what our expectation as the audience watching that is, adding to the tension. But yeah,
I wonder if Alejandro got off, the gourmet chef. I wonder if he got off in time. Probably not.
no, Joffrey didn't.
No.
Alejandro's prepared a delightful menu for us. Chilean sea bass, I believe. Shall we?
Poor.
This is like the opposite of that scene in Apocalypse Now where they're taking
Yeah.
with that cow.
Yeah.
Not the ending. Well, I'm saying when they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
it in the helicopter earlier in the movie. Of course, interesting that Spielberg, naturally chooses to move the camera of something that we can't see, like Oh, but then you work here.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what.
Look at his sock game, by the way, too. You got it all the way up.
Now I may be misremembering this, but I swear there was a set piece in the novel where Muldoon literally was taking these rocket launchers and he was like basically fencing of like the baby T-Rex or something, like was in a Jeep and was like driving towards it or something. It was something stupid.
What is this? What's this actor's name?
I don't remember. Let me look.
Is there anything else he's been in? Because offhand, I can't really think of.
Bob Peck.
Bob Peck, not Bobcat Goldthwait.
No.
He would have been an interesting person to be in that role. Yeah, we got these raptors over here we got to take care of.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
they go eat you. Like,
I'm not seeing anything right now.
Yeah.
Young at Indiana Jones Chronicles.
okay.
So, television show. Yeah, nothing really.
This is obviously one of the most crucial scenes of the movie in terms of talking about these themes of science and the place of this whole endeavor.
That Bob Peck died age of 53 in 1999, so he didn't live too much longer after this movie. That's a shame.
And then there's the merchandise. Donald, this park was not built to cater only for the super rich. Everyone in the world.
Even just the kind of rich, like
Yeah.
We'll have a coupon day or something.
To say the most disrespectful thing in the most low-key way.
Don't you see the danger showing inherent in what you're doing here? Genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen. You wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun. It's hardly appropriate to start hurling
If I may.
I am
This
speaking.
really might actually be one of my favorite performances in any blockbuster movie I can think of, because another thing I want to mention, this movie's 128 minutes. Random amount shorter than most blockbusters now, of course.
Well, yeah, now they love to live in that 220
to 3 hour range. But yeah, I mean, a lot of movies, and good slam here.
Which, some movies justify that length, but most of these blockbusters do not, that should be said.
I mean, the only movies I can think of that usually justify lengths like that are like big dramas, like John Cassavetes films, or like Margaret, or, stuff like that. Like that, or, the like James Ivory movie or whatever, like different movies like that are like dramas that can do that.
Well, especially some that have historical bents, right? Have production value.
Usually James Bond movies are a little bit longer, and I mean, having finally seen every James Bond movie except for No Time to Die,
which who knows if anybody will ever see that,
which just got pushed back again yesterday, I think. But most of those are fine enough in their length, but they're a little bit long too. But but those are movies that were getting a little bit longer back in the 70s and 80s. They were a little. Rape of the Natural World.
To your point, this movie's pretty tight. There's not a lot of things I think that needs to be cut from it. I haven't even really. I'm sure there are deleted scenes available. I don't know if I've really seen any of them. But
I think we read that whole. There's a really good article that was written about Samuel L. Jackson's character in this movie. I don't remember who wrote that, but anyway,
it was David Sims.
David Sims, that's right. And they were talking about how there was going to be some scenes with him going down to turn on the power, and they just kind of had to cut it for some reason. I think it was like they got rushed or something. So that would maybe. I don't think they even filmed that though. Like I said, so.
It should be interesting that these experts on paleontology and the biology of these animals are like, no, this is not going to work. This is not a good idea. Even though they've been clearly amazed by what they've seen.
Lawyer.
But they're clearly amazed by it and transfixed by it. But like, no, this isn't going to work.
Like, can we just hang out here? Man, he just said
Which
that
should be said that, like, I feel like they're being brought in a little late in the process to make that big of a determination against something that is clearly a billions of dollar endeavor.
Yeah.
Got the kids now.
One thing I would like to say about Westworld very quickly, who knows, maybe I'll think more about to say about Westworld. Probably not, but we'll just see. That, of course, that idea is something far more, both in the original film and in the show, is much more catered to the adult fantasies of sex and violence, living out...
Or sex and violins, It's talking heads ones. It's Artistic Rhyme.
Yeah, but that's a far more adult conception of a theme park and like a kind of experience where obviously this is something that can be a whole family affair, but is even more for children, which is actually subtly scarier.
Right.
That you'd be putting children
because with Westworld, there's kind of this inherent like, oh, you signed up for this if you're an adult and whatever happens, you're complicit in. As opposed to this, kids aren't.
If I ever meet Thomas Pynchon, I'm going to say, I read your book. Like, couldn't do that with Michael Crichton because he passed away, sadly, of cancer. But
what is your favorite Crichton book you've read?
My favorite is a book called Next, which was actually the last book he ever published while he was alive, which is basically... the movie Traffic, but about genetics, and a novel. I'm a big fan. I was a pretty big fan of that when I read it. I don't know what I would think about it now. I'd still probably like it, but that was a good book.
Yeah.
Weird thing about that, there was like a whole thing about a monkey in it that was like highly intelligent. They had like done some genetic stuff. And there were some scenes in the book of him playing like baseball or something with kids, and he was like dressed up in like a baseball. It was very weird. And then of course he was like throwing crap at him and stuff. It was very weird. But yeah, that's pretty. That was my favorite I read. The first of his books I read actually was that book Rising Sun,
Okay.
which was made into a movie with Sean Connery in the 90s at some point.
Here we got Samuel in this scene.
Yeah, I think my favorite scenes in this movie have got to be these control room scenes. For all the talent involved. What's your honest opinion about Samuel L. Jackson? Because I feel like we've
he's an industry unto himself at this point. I think on his best days he is a pretty great actor.
Yeah.
I think him in Pulp Fiction, Hateful Eight, too, of course. Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
I think that's, a lot of, Jackson, again, he's covered so much ground that there's forms of Jackson, like there's the Marvel movies Jackson.
There's Star Wars Jackson.
Star Wars Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people who love movies, and I would be with that, in this saying this, that I primarily associate him as Tarantino talent. And I think, and Hateful Eight came at a time where I was kind of getting sick and tired of him, and I was like, all right, you need to do something new or different. And it was a Tarantino movie, so in that way it wasn't new or different. But I thought he was really great in that. So,
of course, by the way, let's insert really quickly here. Yeah, King Kong. Like,
referencing
King Kong, this idea of this, the way that looks. So, anyway.
But and also a movie I didn't like at all, Kingsman. He played a really good villain in that who like stutters, and so he's like pretty funny in it. And so on his best days, I think he can be pretty great.
Yeah.
But he's in so many things. Right. Like it's easy to get kind of sick of him. But he's on his best days.
Yeah,
he's quite
I agree. Really liked him in Kong Skull Island.
Kong Skull Island, a minor classic in this house.
Yeah. We probably shouldn't say anything about what we think about John C. Reilly in that movie. We'll save that for another date. But yeah, y'all shouldn't have come here. I mean, you say that of this too.
It was a different time though.
So of course, the dinosaurs are like hiding, brooding mode, like Batman.
It's kind of like when you. I'm not a big fan of zoos, but when you go to zoos and like, I want to see the giraffe or the baboon or whatever.
Make him move.
Move. He's asleep.
He's boring. Got smoking game in this movie. It
was back when you could do that in public places.
Yeah.
You do it in public places and or private facilities in this case.
The reveal that he is there, of course. My favorite workstation in any film.
Laughs scornfully, should be said.
Or cheap.
There's a lot. This happens with a lot of blockbusters. A lot of like science.
Sorry about your financial problems.
Technical babble that you're like you just kind of assume. Oh yeah, I know what they mean. Blah blah. But yeah, what's his financial problems like?
I don't blame people for their mistakes.
I mean,
thanks, Dad.
Is his tab at Golden Corral over 10,000 now? Right. Is that what happened?
Okay.
Which, by the way, I want to say no shots to Golden Corral. Golden Corral's good.
Oh, no. And quiet. All of you. Between the Tyrannosaurus
paddock.
The paddock. Yeah, I mean, no, I really hope that Golden Corral is able to sustain COVID because I really do love them. But you know what I want to say about COVID and buffets really quickly?
Yeah.
You really start to think, though, about how nasty buffets are.
Yes, true.
And I think that's one good thing that's going to come out of COVID is we're all going to, well, obviously some people are still very not aware of cleanliness or germs. That's been proven clear in public over the past few months, almost a year. But buffets, yeah, that's one of the things you start to really think about anyway, let alone a massive pandemic.
And then some of these people are going to be turned into buffets. Pretty much. It all comes back to eating. Eating is really, that's what it's all about. This is my favorite equation.
Addendum.
Fan edit.
Every director's cut is a fan edit, as
Yeah.
you'll hear us say many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. God is dead. Nietzsche.
Mm-hmm.
Nietzsche is dead. God.
Yeah.
You know.
And God is love, Rev Run.
Right.
'Cause, you know.
Poor goat.
Mm-hmm. He'll make a reappearance here in a little bit. His corpse will.
Oh, this line.
What's the matter, kid? You never had lamb chops?
What a freak.
Ahead of the curve, I guess.
He has one of the all-time greatest screams ever when he
Yeah.
slams the. We'll get to that later, but when he slams that door and screams. Yeah, you know they don't really make big budget movies like they used to, do they?
No.
And I'm not one of those people that like to complain about, oh, they ain't like the old days, but it really isn't anymore. We're really in a bad spot.
And this is another thing I wanted to mention at some point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That if you read Sidney LeMay's
love this moment here. I just want to say real quick. Hello.
a good Twitter pic right there. Twitter profile pic.
I really do hate that man. Anyway, yeah, the Sidney LeMay book, making movies,
like towards the, which is a fantastic.
Yeah,
book,
really great. But one of my favorite books I've read
towards the
about
end
movies.
of it came out in the early '90s, which is around the time obviously this was coming out. He's like, all these new modern movies, they just don't have it, and he like name drops, I believe, specifically Batman Returns.
Yeah.
And then I believe
Robert Altman did a similar thing in Easy Riders, Raging Bulls. He was talking about like, what was it, Face Off, and like some other movies, and it's like
he might have. Yeah. I might be wrong. He might have said something about these dinosaur movies. Yeah. Jurassic Park, even thrown that in. And I, both great filmmakers, so it's not to take away from them at all. But obviously, if they had any idea of what we're dealing with right now compared to the early '90s, but in some ways maybe they were saying this is what it is now, but it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. Right.
So.
And I get it. Batman Returns, love Batman Returns, great movie. And Altman didn't talk about Batman Returns, but we'll just say with Lumet, Batman Returns, great movie, but it ain't The Verdict, it ain't Network, it ain't Failsafe. There's a lot of, it's one of those things you get aggravated sometimes when people say stuff like that, and then you look at what they made, and you're like, well, okay,
they can say whatever. Yeah.
Very creepy scene.
Yeah.
This reminds me of his Conan appearances, which are always great.
Yes,
and all that weird stuff. And now he's on all those like apartments.com. Change the world. Like, I want a podcast, if you're still listening to this, God bless you, by the way. I want a podcast like this of him sitting in this car.
Yeah. Just like short episodes, like 10 minutes each.
And that's Chaos Theory. And it's called That's Chaos Theory.
And, there's my tail is taking a right.
Stop the program.
On the Figueroa.
Yes. As we'll see, that would have been a terrible idea.
Yeah. Among many terrible ideas.
Yeah. I think my favorite, I don't know what your favorite thing about this movie is by far, and I love a lot of things about this movie. My favorite thing has got to be these Dennis Nedry scenes.
Wow.
Everything about it is, just that shot of him brooding over the keyboard. No, my favorite moment in the whole movie is later when he's talking to the guy on the dock and he's like, you gotta give me more time, I gotta 15, 20 minutes, and it's just amazing. No promises, great acting.
I'll be honest, I've seen this movie a lot of times. I think this is the first time I've really noticed Nedry's wearing shorts, which is
really? I never
not
noticed that.
Nedry, Gennaro. I'm sorry.
Oh, Gennaro, yeah.
Gennaro,
no, I've noticed that before,
which is frankly disgusting. A war crime.
He gets taken out. So, yeah, that's weird.
And I'm kind of kidding about this, and I'm kind of not. My favorite thing about this movie might be the Alan Grant fit that
Yeah.
is most of the movie is just so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, because with a lot of adventure movies, going back as far as even North by Northwest, usually whatever the person's wearing at the beginning of the movie, that's what they're going to wear the whole time because they don't have time to change clothes.
And then Cary Grant, speaking of him, 20 years before, Only Angels Have Wings, he's
That's
got
true,
lots
yeah.
of fits in
Oh,
that,
of
but
course,
they're all
great
great.
movie. Yeah.
This
Howard
is
Hawks, the more Ford Hawks, the more Hawks that I see, the better he gets. By the way,
This is clearly an animatronic
Yeah.
CGI.
I think the best animatronic stuff in the movie is the T-Rex. Some of that stuff when it's messing up the car. There's that moment where it like throws the car off and it does that big roar. It's like a really great one of the best animatronic moments in anything I think I've ever seen. Excuse me.
And again, it's one of those things, I don't think most people, including me, would think about with something like this, but obviously the scientists are thinking about is like, these animals are not equipped to be in the modern world in terms of like the biology of the things they're eating
and the climate change and stuff they're not acclimated to. Yeah, that's something I don't think about a lot, but yeah, it's interesting. What do you think about these kid performances? By the way, we kind of skipped over them earlier.
They're passive. They're good.
Yeah.
They're passable.
Well, I'll be D.
I know the boy. I can't remember either their names.
Well, I read them earlier. Yeah. Anyway,
the boy is like one of Zuckerberg's friends in the social network. Like,
that's right. I forgot about that.
They're fine.
Yeah, I think they're
Spielberg gets great performances out
Right.
of kids. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never seen it, you should definitely go watch the
Henry Thomas
audition for E.T., which is, and he does a lot of great acting in that movie, but that's almost the best acting that I've seen out of all that.
He says also Spielberg says in the video, "You've got the job."
Yeah, he's immediately like, "Yep."
Which that might have been deep into the process, and he was already going to give it to him. But terrific acting from Henry Thomas in that. Change course. Imagine him as a meteorologist.
Oh my God!
We got a tornado coming through.
Yeah, it's like it'd be kind of like if you ever seen that Prince Charles. That one time he did a guest like meteorologist thing on. I saw this on the news like years ago. Oh wait, all-time expletive.
Yeah.
And another all-time expletive.
Yeah. Back to back.
Is that me looking at the sequels? I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, there was that one time that Prince. Anyway, back to Prince Charles. There was that one time that Prince Charles was on did a weather report for some. I guess it was like London weather or something.
Yeah,
he was
London Calling.
He was talking about how in England it's like always raining or cloudy. And he's like clouds and rain. What bloody else is new or something? All time. Look that up if you've never seen it. You gotta wash your hands before you eat anything. This shot.
Tense instrumental music.
He's got really big hands. That's what happens when you go to the vending machines regularly. I insist that we get moving.
It's like, why do you tell us? Like,
oh, that's right, because they have to split her up so that she'll be kind of away from the rest for most of the movie. Actually, yeah, good split up in this movie. A lot of things going on.
a lot of good subtle screenwriting.
Love these shots that look like they could be from any weather report ever. Of storm hits Caribbean. Okay, this moment. This is all-time acting from both people involved.
No. Listen, you gotta give me the time. I did a test run on this thing. It took me 20 minutes. I thought it could maybe push to 18. You gotta give me at least 15 minutes. Give me the 15.
How many takes he did of that? How fast he got all that out?
When he makes the decision that will end his life. Spoiler, if you didn't know that.
Yeah.
I would hope by now you've seen Jurassic Park before. 1-6 Triceratops.
Could have been worse, John.
Could have been much worse.
A guy who's clearly been antagonistic towards all these people, all of a sudden is asking, "Oh, do you want anything from the vending machines? My favorite place."
Maybe he's hoping that they'll leave him sitting later and he can have him for another snack or something. I love how the subtitles, he's speaking so fast, they're just cutting some stuff out, too, because they're like...
Newman. You know, Newman's just always a fly in the ointment.
I just did that move. You couldn't see it, but...
Thunder clapping.
Of course...
Thunder
clapping. Of course, we're about to enter, I think, one of the greatest set pieces in any blockbuster. Always thrilling. I think one of the other greatest is another Spielberg one, was all of Jaws. No, well, that. But the truck sequence in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the greats, I think, too, which obviously is heavily inspired by a lot of the serials.
10th instrumental music continues.
Surveillance Video Systems. I wonder if that company's still in the black.
Yeah. Nice slider.
Wonder what happened to it. What if the Velociraptor got it or something later, you know?
Oh, Nedry.
I don't have much to say about these scenes because I love them so much. It's just they speak for themselves. Love this moment where it like shows. I think it's the Velociraptor or Tyrannosaurus Rex name. It takes a moment to really focus on it. Like, uh-oh. It looks like a something you put in a nail bomb or something. Yeah, that. But yeah, it's looking like he's filling like a cylinder for a gun or something.
Restricted. Like, don't come in.
Very ingenious thing there.
Barbasol product placement, we should say. Also.
Yeah, now I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if that was in the novel or not.
Yeah, I was going to ask in general how much this corporate espionage.
Oh, it's
stuff is
an even bigger part of the novel.
Yeah.
I said Dodson becomes the villain of the sequel, which he isn't in the movie at all. I don't think that I remember.
Yeah.
Spielberg was like, "I'm not doing that crap." Now, I just have to say, I think that is one of the greatest lines in any movie.
Find Nedry, check the vending machine. Which it should be said, he said he was going there.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, that's where he always is.
That's his favorite spot, yeah.
I love also they've already installed vending machines because he needs them so bad. Like, these are some great scenes, too, of just him running around like a freak show.
Like a freak show. George Takei once said.
Of Lights, Camera, Jackson, the film critic.
We didn't read his review for the movie.
Well,
yeah.
If he wrote one, he wasn't alive. I wasn't either.
I think he writes criticism anyway. People write criticism of him in the sense of like, why do you exist? But
what a complete slob.
High voltage, like.
Yeah, it's interesting that the whole
walk.
Yeah.
Like
he's like, I am a
fan
man.
cam. That's like in the fan cam.
Oh yeah,
Nedry.
What would his song for the fan cam be? Like "Born to Be Wild" or something?
Yeah.
Oh, all-time car crash. It's not that bad a one though.
But it does confuse him which direction he's got to go, which ultimately ends to his death. So.
Yeah, I'll talk more about his death in a little bit in the novel. I might actually find that and read it at the end because I have the novel here with me, actually. And access main program grid. He's only got a little bit left on that cigarette.
And you don't say the magic word.
Please!
I mean, all time like legacy you're leaving for people to remember you by.
And it keeps playing.
Whoops. Maybe this was a bad idea.
Yeah, that you would be able to give all that to one man.
Yeah.
Who's like, oh, I want something salty. Like, the salt he wanted was espionage. Yeah.
Obviously, a great decision to set all this in the rain, anyways.
Yeah.
So it's this
you can
whole,
put anything in the rain, make it good.
Yeah. I'm sure it made it technically way harder.
Oh yeah.
For the effects and for the lighting and everything.
You're scared of the dark too, Marv. we won't even go there with Home Alone. Like one of our favorite obsessions. They're expensive.
And they're expensive. Put them back.
All right, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
They immediately just, great substitute teacher energy there. It's
Yeah.
like, don't do that. And then
I had to do, well, I won't say anything about that other than that yesterday, as a matter of fact, I had to tell some kids multiple times to do some things, and they had kind of an attitude about it, which is always fun to watch, But yeah, just don't even listen. Just do whatever,
Mm-hmm. The world's your oyster,
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do, we talk about this often, is what is the temperature right now where they are? Because I am obsessed with being cold. I'm a very hot-natured person and like air conditioning.
Well, being it's in a tropical kind of location and it's raining, so it'd be more humid.
Yeah, and a lot of action that's about to happen. You're going to get your heart rate up.
I know that's one of the hardest effects for this movie to do was the water.
How was it that they did that
I think
again?
I heard that they had somebody like one of the effects guys under the
car
dash with like a guitar string.
That's what I thought. It was like a guitar piano string or something.
Yeah, and flicked it because it was so hard to create that look. But obviously one of the most memorable images of the movie.
Another moment of that later when you see the water in the footprint.
Yeah.
And Malcolm is like, oh crap. But yeah, so it's probably really hot there right now.
Which the rain might cool it down a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tad, where's the goat? All-time acting.
Oh my gosh,
Gennaro.
a T-Rex eats. Shocking. Crunchy.
Yeah, so imagine if they created like a social studies-esque park like this and they asked us, if they asked us to come down there for something like that and they were like, there are going to be Nazis or Mongols there or something, it's like, yeah, don't go because if they're going to be like, similar thing, like, if probably don't go there because they're violent. Mm-hmm. All-time line reading here.
Yeah. Loud thudding.
Yeah, if you're ever going to, like, reproduce historical groups, don't do Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good idea. Which, also, not a good idea to do anything like this, but... Which, I mean, it's a similar thing with Westworld. It's like, yeah, don't create gunslingers or Romans or...
Yeah.
Absolutely still. His vision's based on movement.
Well, Gennaro's vision's based on bowel movement, right?
Mm.
Perceived bowel movement. Good intention here to try to get the attention of them in there, but I think they would know that it's out anyways, but... Whoops.
I think one of the greatest shots in any movie here, coming up with the iris, or pupil, getting smaller. Reminds me of one of our cats when it's like looking
Yeah.
at something. It's like, what's this? Roaring deafeningly.
Can you imagine how scary that would be?
Yeah. Not fun. Had some ADR on that, you could tell. Huh, what's going on?
So they're just now, huh?
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
They in bad shape.
As a fan of Jeeps, this is not good. Or no, that's a Ford anyway. That's a Ford Explorer. Never mind. But yeah, in the book it was Land Rovers randomly, which I don't know why that matters. But Ford Explorer. I do like the look of the Ford Explorer though. At least they put those in there.
Yeah.
They could have easily not done that.
That's true.
They didn't do anything else right so far.
Mm-hmm. Now, what you want? Like,
Oh crap! Obviously, Ian Malcolm, one of the most selfless heroes of all time.
Yeah.
This still looks really good, by the way. I gotta say.
Yeah.
Gennaro, all the best scream
Larry
of all
Full Grace,
time.
help me win the stock car race.
I had a screen cap of that on my phone somewhere of him like mid door slam.
I mean,
like,
obviously, most embarrassing way to die ever.
yeah. That's actually pretty violent for a PG-13. I mean, no blood really, but you know.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what the submission of this movie to the MPAA, what they would have wanted cut, because there probably was a few moments or things.
Probably easier to cut some things than Natural Born Killers the next year.
Right, that's true.
Which famously, the MPAA was just like, we don't really know what to do with this. So.
Like NA, not alcohol, just like.
God, that would stink. See, where I think about, it would be hot, our mom would say, I wonder if that stinks. You know, she's a big fan of, does that stink? Which I agree, but... But yeah, back to the sequels. I have seen all of the sequels as well, other than the newest one.
Yeah.
But I don't remember anything about
The most memorable thing to me about Jurassic Park 3 was that the Spider-Man teaser trailer was attached to it.
Oh, that's right. Was that the 9/11 one?
Yeah, with the Twin Towers.
With the Twin Towers, yeah.
That was like in
Very
01.
strange,
When,
yeah.
Earlier 01 when that happened. Or that trailer came out. But again, what the strength of this, even 1, 2, and 3, is that this it's like feels like there's a sense of gravity to these things. It's not too lost in the CGI. That it has a very tangible, grounded physics to everything. You know?
I think that's the most realistic thing I've ever seen. That specific animatronic there. I love how they don't even really exactly know what's going on right now.
Whatever it did it all. But with the key checks off, the computer didn't file the keystroke, so the only way to find them now is to go through the computer's lines of code one by one.
How many lines of code are there?
About 2 million.
2 million.
Prototype. I wonder if I have to...
Well, by the way, can you go make sure my grandkids are alive?
Yeah.
Great beer, by the way, from
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
It's still going.
Really isn't, speaking of the 90s, it truly is an infinite jest.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're going to die, so who cares?
Yeah, well.
When the heater
All
becomes
time.
the
Yeah,
eater.
here's a car crash. Oh, you always love to hear something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Goodrich. All terrain. Turns out not.
Needs to call Mr. Cat.
Oh, this is all-time sound here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, just gotta,
When
get
he
like
that like banana peel slip sound, which is strange. It would be used in a moment like this. It's like, what? Why would you use that? Like,
really like a whoopsie, like.
My glasses. I can afford more glasses.
I would just run at that point. Like.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's in the best shape.
Well,
I guess.
that's true. But
And also, he left the canister up in the.
well, that's what I'm saying. You take it with you, and then
yeah.
you run down to where the road is. Yeah. You made it.
Good time you can do it. Do it. Come on, Dennis.
Now, this stuff used to really scare me as
Yeah.
a kid. This is some scary stuff. Because not...
Yeah, that's nice. There we go.
Random, they put that in the trailer that we played earlier, too,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, that moment. But yeah, this... Because not much of this movie I ever found too terrifying, but this stuff is scary. Just because this dinosaur's scary looking.
Thought you were one of your big brothers. You're not so bad. You're not so bad. What do you want? What do you want? You want
You're the food.
look at me.
You're the puppet.
I'm
Like.
soaking wet. I don't have any food. I have no food on me. I have nothing on me. Come on. Hey, pets? Hey, pets?
Play fetch. Play fletch.
Mm.
We'll just say on this point, we're not Chevy Chase fans really at all. But
Yeah.
You like this stick? No wonder you're extinct. I'm gonna run you over when I come back.
I don't think so.
no, maybe that's what was the turning point for that.
It's like, oh, I understood that.
Yeah.
I speak bocce. Yeah.
He speaks Taco Bell, maybe.
That stuff is paralyzes you, by the way. They talked about that in the book. It spit it in his eye. Well, it's about to spit it in his eye, too, here, but...
But he can afford more glasses, so I mean.
Yeah. But yeah, like I
Oh,
said...
no, it was in his pocket.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. He could have just walked.
Oh, well.
Either way, he would have lived, maybe.
I just love that that it would have opened the door,
Yeah.
got in and closed the door.
Well, they can open doors, as we find out later. Yeah, like I said, maybe at the end I will read from the novel the lines of his death is even worse.
And again, this is one of these, set pieces here that has nothing to do with the dinosaur. It's just like a, response to this natural disaster essentially that's happened to them.
Not what I'm gonna do.
So obviously a huge moment of character growth for Grant. That he doesn't really like these kids at first, but he's like, you know what? They've been left behind. I'm going to have to step up to make sure they're safe. At this point, would you still be worried about the temperature if you were in one of their positions? Deep down, you'd be like, "Oh, it is kind of cold." Like.
Well, yeah. Or no, I would be like, it's kind of hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I meant hot.
Oh,
yeah,
no. I would be happy about that. I would still probably be complaining.
Oh yeah, the dinosaur thing was kind of rough, but can you turn on the AC a little bit? Like, I don't know if it's working in this Explorer.
Yeah, maybe not.
Get one of them custom Explorers would be nice.
Yeah.
Like,
There's actually a car around here, I think, or no, it's a truck maybe. Have you seen it where it's like
yeah.
has engine on it and
Yeah.
it like has a Jurassic Park logo? Of course, not not Valentine driving that, by the way.
Yeah.
Some other fan it must be, I've just always thought that's funny. You see it riding around in town where we live here, and it's like, oh, okay.
I think I've seen it in a few car shows here or there.
Yeah. It's just like a white truck, though. It's just like some like Ford truck, like, you know, from like the 90s or something. But yeah, it has like a lot of logos on it and stuff. Very weird. Oh boy. Oh, this would suck.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
Probably get a splinter too.
Yeah.
That's another thing I wonder about. Would I get a splinter? No, I don't ever think about that. But that's something I'm gonna think about from now on.
A little convenient, but they.
Yeah, well, they live.
I guess the bottom of it
Yeah.
was broken out with the glass, so like, or the well, in that case would have been the bottom, the former top of the car.
Gotta know your orientations.
So not looking great from their perspective as far as
Like one of the cars literally is missing.
one of those ponchos would be nice. To have.
Yeah.
I think this was too.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Gonna be at his deposition in the sky.
Even in near death, he's
Yeah.
like cracking jokes.
I mean, he's basically cracking jokes here in a minute when they're going to look, and then like he's like sitting there, and he's like, "Come on, now." You know?
Yeah.
He's still joking. Come on.
ABJ always be joking.
Like rank your PB and J's, your ABJs, your JPEGs,
your PDFs. What's your favorite file format? I love a good PDF because it's very,
it's easier to
be
read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably it.
You got your MP3, then you got your MP4.
You got your MOV movie.
Mm-hmm.
Got that movie.
They were a little lazy with that one, I guess. It's like
Yeah.
Movie, MOV.
Move.
Ominous instrumental music. That's the worst kind. Where, have a good instrumental time, and then it becomes ominous.
So let's just say this ain't gonna work out. This whole park thing.
Yeah, I think it's
Gripping instrumental music. Gripping.
Look at how many
What is
of
it?
these-
Got me by the throat? Like
roars,
roar.
Must go faster.
Now it looks a little bit more fake there. All-time Laura Dern scream here.
Should be said that shot of objects in the mirror may be closer than they appear. Directly parodying Toy Story with T-Rex.
Two, actually. The scream, though. It's like Inland
top tier
Empire
acting.
level, yeah.
Didn't Laura Dern win the Oscar for Marriage Story?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, so she's won an Academy Award. Not for Wild at Heart, unfortunately. But
No. Or Inland Empire.
yeah, she should have for that. Oh, Lynch tried.
And he did that whole thing with the cow.
Yeah. We should just say Lynch, one of our personal favorite
Yep.
filmmakers, that will probably be.
We'll be doing one of his movies eventually, yeah. It's his birthday just the other day. He turned 75.
Mm-hmm.
So.
A day after Dolly Parton, also 75. Yeah. Two iconoclasts.
Dolly. Quite the fan of your music.
So I wish I had a tulpa.
What the hell?
So
I would yell bonsai into this mic, but I don't think you want to
blow it out.
You don't want to have to hear that. Yeah.
So they're in a better place now. Well, now dinosaurs are cool again. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
singing. No, they're just making noises. It's like it's a maybe a whale. Yeah, it's like them whale noises in Jaws. That's pretty strange.
it must have been wild.
Like whales, like love you, babe, but like quit your noises, you know.
Yeah. Imitating dinosaur bellow. Under my umbra bellow.
Like saw bellow.
Dinosaur bellow. Hello. A.
Just animals. These are herbivores.
That means they only eat vegetables. But for you, I think they make an exception. Oh, I hate the other.
So she can find a certain kinship. She's a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm. I was interested to find a child vegetarian.
Especially in the 90s.
Yeah. It'd be more of a thing now.
Also, it should be said they come from privilege,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that'd be more of a thing.
But I love he's like, nope, not for me. Like,
not for me. As Josh Peck once said.
well, beat me a big old bag of cheese balls. Yeah.
I don't know.
As
Arnold was.
Yeah, you know, they make even a bigger deal about this in the book. Oh, wait, this joke.
Knee slapper. What times we've had, you know, like.
This music and this kind of embrace here reminds me of the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That reminded me how much in the novel, they do this a little bit in the movie, but in the novel, how they keep harping on the fact that dinosaurs and birds are related. It's just like, okay, like, fine. Because, you know, raptor is technically more in reference to a type of bird.
Yeah.
Because I remember that's towards the beginning of the novel. There's a kind of, instead of this, we got to see here the merchandising.
All the merch.
Yeah. Which is just hilarious.
Which they could have, who knows, they could have easily been what the movie itself was, like, made after the movie,
Right.
and they already went ahead and put it in here. I don't know, like.
It's called Cutting Corners. Yeah, but anyway, in the novel, actually, it's a really good opening sequence of the novel where it's kind of similar to the opening of the movie, where they fly in a worker from Jurassic Park, who is Hispanic. He speaks Spanish, and they're telling, it's like one of the other, basically the contract or whoever the like leader of that work group speaks English, and he's saying, "Oh, it's just like a backhoe accident. He had been like cut up his back by like a velociraptor, basically." And it's like, "Oh, it's just a backhoe accident or whatever." And he keeps speaking in Spanish, the word raptor, basically, which then they make a whole big deal about going and looking in a dictionary about raptor. It's like a bird or something. And it's like, I just remember that. It's really good opening sequence, but it keeps harping on, like, birds and dinosaurs are connected. It's just like, okay.
From Scotland, like Andrew Carnegie.
Yeah.
Should be sued. Came to America to do great
this
things.
whole flea circus thing is strange.
A wee trapeze. It's a great little kind of imagery of him eating the ice cream that would be melting, you know, just like, well, might as well. Like,
yeah, spare no expense. Mommy, I can see the Mummy. Mum,
I can see the, blood-curdling dinosaur, like the dinosaur.
You still haven't seen the Sand Pebbles, have you?
No, I'd like to see that a lot.
That Steve McQueen film, not the current Steve McQueen, who's alive and making films. But yeah, the actor Steve McQueen was that Robert Wise movie. The Sand Pebbles was pretty good, but anyway, he was like one of the main supporting roles in that. Richard Attenborough, and it was really weird to see him younger, which he was in a lot of older movies. That's just the only one I've seen. So. I'll think through it. I'll figure it out. When they're trying to reboot Marvel again, it's just like Kevin, like.
It's all an illusion. When we have control. You never had control. That's the illusion. I was overwhelmed by the power of this place. But I made a mistake too. I didn't have enough respect for that power, and it's out now.
Giving me something to think about, Gonna ponder that one. Think about that one. Think about that one on the John, which is my name.
Yeah, he was still kind of clinging to the hope that this could happen, but
nope.
He's like,
all those expenses, they've been spared.
Even she can't resist the ice cream. She screams for ice cream. He's still like, yeah. Soft instrumental music.
What do you think about the last 45 minutes of this movie?
It's pretty good. I mean,
I think it's good. Yeah, I think
the kitchen sequence, which we'll be getting to soon.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I think
great.
The very end is good, but that kind of little bit of climax towards the end is not as good as some other sequences in the movie. But the kitchen stuff is. But some of the gonna cut through the glass and where they're trying to get everything back online is okay. But I won't say a letdown exactly. But it's just kind of okay, Come on, baby. You know you're the girl of my dreams.
This snot blast here in a second.
Oh, yeah. Where are its nostrils? Oh, it's up on its forehead there.
Looks like it has a cold.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, might have COVID.
Just think of it as
It's not social distancing. It's not wearing a mask. It's not gonna live.
How would it wear a mask? How does that happen? It's wearing a mask. That was my favorite present I got for my birthday this last year. I was born on August 26th, in case anybody cares. That was the day that Tom Cruise put out that video, or it was overnight, maybe the night before, put out that video of him going to see Tenet.
Yeah.
In England, that was my favorite present I got that day.
Speaking of, I've talked to you about this before. Tom Cruise has made 2 films with Spielberg,
right?
And it's kind of interesting because they're literally the biggest actor of his time as far as a certain type of movie, and biggest director of a very similar type of movie, these big action blockbusters, and I never really felt that their collaboration was met with a movie that matched it exactly.
Yeah.
Because
I haven't seen War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds is
but,
good.
Minority
Report's
Report,
good,
yeah.
but neither one of them really go to the next level for
Right.
me. But
I think about AI much more
yeah, AI's
than
great.
Minority Report.
here we get the revelation that wait a minute, they're actually laying eggs and that they're
Because
multiplying.
they're using frog DNA, which, as they explain, is kind of a what do you call it, a genderless kind of, or even a transsexual DNA or dino DNA.
Yeah.
Actually, amphibian DNA.
Oh,
No,
cute.
how pretty. Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, it's scary when you realize how fast animals grow.
Yeah.
Okay, the only thing that I have to say about this image, I'm going to make it personal.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody said everything that could be said about it, so I'm going to add my little personal spin, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We went, in 2015, we went to Universal Studios in Orlando. We'd been there before, but that was the first time we were there when they had the Harry Potter stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we rode the Hogwarts ride. And I drank some butterbeer before that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have motion sickness, and I threw up after that ride very quickly.
Which we were told also that Tim Burton also
and he threw up actually on the
doing-
Gringotts ride,
Yeah.
which is supposedly less of a strenuous ride.
Yeah.
So
Timmy, like yeah.
Timmy, I am better than Timmy. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I didn't really ride very many more rides that day because I wasn't feeling very good. But there's a picture of me that was taken when we went to the Jurassic Park ride.
Yeah.
No, I actually did ride that ride. Dying. And there's a picture of me I was like sitting there kind of feeling bad. I was like propped up on my elbow, and we took a picture. It was like of me. Of course, I had my shirt on because it was a public place.
And you're not Matthew McConaughey.
And I'm not Matthew McConaughey or Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
And take my shirt off.
Yeah.
And I did a Jeff Goldblum moment there. So
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I think of every time I see it now.
Yeah. I remember. When we saw this in Lumina.
Yeah.
And when I remember seeing it in 2013, like it got people clapping like when that famous shot. But
hold on to your butts. That's a shot.
Yeah. Not waking up.
Yeah.
To check MySpace, all like
MySpace.
Has their top friends changed? Like
that was a thing for MySpace.
Yeah, like it was like you could organize on your page your top friends, and so it was like, they moved me down.
I remember when MySpace and Facebook was a thing when it first came out, and I never had a MySpace, so I don't. But I remember when you had one. Yeah.
I think the Tom from MySpace, who every time you created an account, you're instantly his friend because he was the guy who created it or whatever. One of the main guys, anyways. That he basically just sold all his shares and is now just independently wealthy and just kind of doing a lot of charity work and just living his life.
Didn't let it crash and burn, I guess, like it eventually did. Yeah.
But then you got Zuckerberg, of course, who's basically a villain.
Basically. Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot. Imagine. Remember the Imagine video that Gal Gadot made?
I don't have anything to say about that, yeah.
Remember that was 2 weeks in to quarantine? Thinking, this is so tough.
That kind of reminds me of the I Take Responsibility videos that Aaron Paul did, one of those.
Well, I think he's in the Imagine video.
So. And he get right. Maybe it's part of that. Maybe it's a series. Every time I look at the way those look, I think of Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, you can tell it's similar. Yeah. The skin texture is similar.
He's a Jar Jar Binks. He's a humble servant.
That won't be necessary.
I speak. The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. But yeah, famously, like I said in the novel, well, I don't know about famously, but in the novel there were actually 2 T-Rexes. There was this one, and then there was like a baby one, and it was a little bit smaller. I can't remember. One of them probably died. I don't know. Which all of them died, I guess, with the napalm strike at the end of the book. But yeah.
Keep low and follow me.
I mean, now this fit from Laura Dern. I mean,
Yeah.
This is just a delay. That's all it is. All major theme parks have delays. They opened Disneyland in 1956. Nothing will ever. Yeah, but John, if the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists. You got to stroll down the road.
you can just stroll down the road.
You know. Oh, getting a Spaz 12. Say all the Call of Duty fans.
Yeah. Tense instrumental music. What's tense about it? Like,
By the way, I probably would have got the M16, but that's just me. That's sort of like see anything you like moment from Modern Warfare 2. Yeah. Oh, use me as a table.
get the table, Devon. The famed Dudley brothers.
So there's a area near where we live called Dudley Shoals.
Yeah.
It's the most redneck thing I've ever heard. But I always wonder, the Dudley brothers live over there or somewhere? Or Dudley boys, excuse me.
We can discuss sexism and survival situations when I get back. And just take me through this step by step. I'm on channel 2.
Why not Channel 1?
Yeah, Channel 1 News. They still show Channel 1 News to y'all in high school?
Well, they did in middle school.
Yeah.
High school, they were like, you're too old for this crap. Which, I mean, it was amiable.
No, I think it was more middle school.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it for me, too, yeah.
I remember when the BP...
The Raptors.
Yeah. Remember the BP oil spill? Mm-hmm. I remember when that happened. I saw a lot about that on that Channel 1 News. It was like I was in like 6th grade, I remember.
All the fences. Must have turned off.
You know what was really sad?
August Wilson's fences.
Was a really sad thing to me was when they started making all those commercials like a couple years after. It was like, please come back to the Gulf. It's clean now, which is, an amiable enough thing, I guess, but it's just like really sad.
Damaged the environment so much, All of them were paid for by BP.
Well, if you came here to hear about the BP oil spill.
Yeah. See, but that's like humans messing with nature in ways they shouldn't have, and then you get horrible disasters.
Plus, hey, this is our podcast, okay? So we'll talk about whatever we want to talk about. Towards the shed.
I've got her.
He has an all-time.
He's really looking.
All-time death.
He's jonesing.
I love
for
where
some
she
action.
like jumps up and swings here on the. Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. It's a well lit shot.
Yeah.
This Spielberg guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it should be said. I think Schindler's List was the first movie he worked with Janusz Kaminski.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm not sure who's the DP on this, but it was him. And pretty much ever since then, he's only ever worked with Kaminski.
It was Dean Cundy.
Who's also known, yeah.
Is it Cundy or Cundy?
I think Cundy, I think.
I figured.
This is also a really tense sequence. I was getting shocked,
It's like whenever you put your fingers in between, when you're plugging something into a socket and you actually, that's never fun. But except this is a lot worse. Looks like this is kind of a funny moment, or throws it against the...
Not sure if it's, working.
I guess it means the power's off.
He had some New Zealand accent there, you could tell.
That classic dad humor.
Also, I feel like we should mention that we're watching this on a PlayStation 4. Normally, 4. 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
I don't know. Normally we would speed things up on 1.5 speed just to laugh, but of course we can't break the sync, but that would have been a moment that we would have done that with. Would have loved to have heard the at 1.5 speed.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you're not listening to this podcast at 1.5 speed.
Yeah. It's, you know, you do you, but
but we're gonna judge you for it.
Yes. Look above you.
He's like, cut the crap. Should be a large bundle of cable and pipes heading in the same direction.
Okay, following the piping. Timmy, I need to be able to climb over the top and get the other side before you can even get to the top. To get me. Respect.
Come on, guys. It's not a race.
Well, maybe it should have been.
This is high voltage.
High voltage!
No, they have no idea that they're racing against the clock here. You know?
Find your footing. Find your footing.
You can't throw the main switch by hand. You've got to pump up the primer hand.
Gotta pump
The proton pump.
Large, flat.
And great.
Alright, here I go, okay?
Didn't he make this movie like after Hook?
Yeah.
By the way, which I've never seen.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. It's okay. I know it's got a kind of a bad reputation, and it's kind of a great idea for a movie, I think. And Dustin Hoffman, I remember liking him a lot as Captain Hook.
Oh, that's right.
It's okay. I don't really think about it all that much.
Who played Shmi in that again? We were just talking about that. Oh, it's Bob Hoskins, yeah.
And, you know...
Which, if anybody's ever going to play Shmi, I mean...
You would also think that, you know, Robin Williams and Spielberg would have worked more together, being as big as they were, but... he's actually kind of a very savvy choice for a, you know, younger... or older Peter Pan, you know?
Yeah.
But it's an okay little movie. I'd actually like to rewatch it, because it's been a long, long time. Julia Roberts, she plays Tinkerbell, I think, in it. Plays somebody in it.
He wasn't even close enough to catch
Yeah,
him.
it was like nowhere near.
Was the ILM sound?
Was it like 10,000 volts at sea?
Yeah.
High voltage, like.
All-time moment here. Was this the first kind of up-close Velociraptor moment in the movie, now I think about it?
Other than if you want to... Well, yeah, I think it is.
Gripping instrumental music continues, by the way. Give you a hand.
That face, I'm coming, like...
That's real, I'm here, like... That's real, like, you've arrived at your destination, kind of...
Oh, yeah, he's still hacking it. He said he's gotta, so.
And then it took him this long, I guess, to get there, but... Suspenseful instrumental music.
Best kind.
The only kind.
Well,
like, if you're here to listen to Tangerine Dream, like, you know, it better be tense.
Let's see, like, low-key terror instrumental music. he realizes he gets played, but he's still like, oh, he's still gonna go for the kill. But
Yeah, because of course Grant explained that earlier in the movie about how they hunt in groups like that.
Yeah.
And it's watching like, I will feast on the scraps. As Reznov once said, let them feast on our scraps. A lot of Call of Duty references this episode.
Reznov.
I mean, his name is Victor Reznov, and he
We should get like
will
a
have his revenge.
get like a World War One prequel with him.
Yeah,
The war to end all world. Oh,
yeah, the war to end all worlds. Yeah,
war to end all wars. World War One.
Now I have seen the War of the Worlds '50s film.
I've not seen the '50s one.
It's interesting that I know every version of that pretty much ends with, "Oh wait, they can't breathe."
Yeah,
Like, yeah, that's kind of always been a funny ending to me. But specifically, what I remember about that movie is it ends like that, but then it's like, God made the earth so that the aliens couldn't breathe, and the last shot of the movie is this like church and all the rubble, and it's like God saved mankind. It's just like, okay,
should be said that like Tim went through like being stuck in the car in the tree, and then he got like shocked.
Yeah, and then more to come.
Yeah,
Mordecai.
Yeah.
David Cope.
Oh, Jonathan Depp.
We'll probably talk about him at some point in a movie he's in that we'll not do later.
Yeah.
I don't feel like talking about it right now.
If you want a good laugh, read, there's a Rolling Stones article written a few years ago about his finances, which is hilarious.
Blowing all that money on Hunter S. Thompson's funeral.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I would blow all my money on Hunter S. Thompson's funeral. But
at least these kids are getting to eat, you know.
Yeah. Great Jello moment here.
You got a favorite Jello flavor?
Oh, definitely something blue.
Yeah, maybe orange or blue.
Red's good. Orange would be interesting.
I'm a big fan of anything orange flavored. Usually.
Except for Delson, probably, I would hope. Delson. Motrin, children's Motrin always tasted good.
But as I was saying earlier, I think this is obviously one of the most memorable, best sequences of the movie.
Yep.
And I would imagine like these reflective surfaces were really hard on the effects, like.
And even
get
just
all
to
that
shoot
match,
it too, yeah.
The
But
lighting,
especially that, yeah.
Just the two raptors, right? You sure the thermos contained?
Yes.
Sound like you said, are you sure the thermos is contained? Like, didn't bring lunch. Unless they learn how to open doors.
They are the lunch.
Oh.
It's like a gremlin hand there.
Which he produced.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't know if he's involved in Secret of the Mogwai or whatever the HBO Max crap is going to be. I don't even know if Joe Dante's involved in that.
I would think not.
Or Christopher Columbus.
I haven't listened to that podcast he does, the movies that made me, with Josh Olson, in a little while.
Mm-hmm.
That was like one of my COVID podcasts.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, COVID's still going on, but I'm a little bit busier now than I was at the time, and I haven't listened to it as much.
Yeah, it's a good podcast. What I've heard, I've liked. I recommend it. I know you do.
Yeah, they know a lot more about movies than we do, but
well, they've been around a while.
But Joe Dante's always talking about Hell's a Poppin', so
Next, you're gonna be popping your thing. Careful.
Oh yeah. YouTube was fun to watch in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
There was a video that somebody made. It was like sounds in Jurassic Park, and they were like they were just like editing a lot of sounds together, and like a lot of them were like him banging the like ladles and like that, and like Nedry's laugh. Mm-hmm. That was like all the stuff, His back's up against the wall.
Back up against the wall.
Sniffing. I wonder if dinosaurs dip snuff.
If they, they'd probably, that'd be one of the more modern human things they'd probably be into.
Crying in fear.
Just crying in fear.
Lex screaming hysterically.
Ooh,
That's
hurt.
bad.
Well, too bad for them.
Cranial disease.
Insane in the brain. Insane in a membrane. I mean, another 90s luminary,
Luminary. I guess.
Well, you don't agree?
I mean, not that I disagree, but...
I mean, it's on the, oh gosh. What's the name of it?
Space Jam?
Well, no, it
Is
ain't
that in
that.
Space Jam?
No, Bulworth soundtrack.
Right. Bulworth.
Yeah, it easily could be in the Space Jam
Yeah.
soundtrack, but I don't know. It does have I Believe I Can Fly. From
Love this
noted sicko
look
R.
it
Kelly.
gives here is like
Snorting.
Yeah.
Already,
R. Kelly.
See, already starting the cocaine. These
Robert. Yeah.
Control Alt Delete. Need to Control Alt Delete these dinosaurs.
Of course, before too long, we're going to see the single greatest freak out in any movie.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you call it a freak out or just scream or whatever. But, hello.
Oh, but 90s hero moment right here. Unix system. I mean, see, knowing about being excited about CD-ROM pays off.
You can tell he's like trying really hard to do an American accent.
Yeah.
Like, try to reach the gun, like.
Yeah, I've always imagined that'd be one of the hardest things as an actor is just to like maintain the reality of a scene and know
Yeah.
your lines and also remember keep your voice to whatever it is, what movie dictates.
Yeah. Do you remember that scene in The
This
Hunt
might
for
be the
Red?
right file.
Yeah.
This isn't right file.
In Hunt for Red October that he's in, where there's, it plays that stupid movie game where it's like they're speaking Russian,
Yeah.
and then they transition into English because they're like, we're too lazy to keep doing that, and there's that moment where it does that, and a scene that he's in talking to Sean Connery, I think, I remember, but I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I get that and K-19 The Widowmaker mixed up a lot.
Yeah. Is Harrison Ford in that one?
Yeah, that's him and Liam Neeson.
Did Catherine Bigelow make that one? I
Yeah,
think?
yeah, she did.
Here we go. What you were talking about?
Yep. Love they gave it 2 seconds, the Raptors, then they're like, all right, new game plan. Yeah, leave the shotgun behind.
Ladder match.
It's like if they ever asked Richard Attenborough, like, who's your favorite president?
It's like second term, not great, but
Yeah, those panics,
Yeah.
those good old pesky panics.
and those pesky, political corruption and just like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, like,
And like,
all
yeah,
that
we
stuff,
kind of did Reconstruction. Like,
but still a step up from Johnson. So
sorry, this isn't a history class, but frankly, if you're not interested, turn it off now.
remember the 3D on that was that shot was
Yeah,
pronounced.
we saw. I know that we went and saw Titanic when they did the. I guess that wasn't even
That was
any
the-
anniversary exactly.
Well,
it was 25 or 15.
Well, I think it was actually it would have been not even totally the 15th. It was in
or no,
2012.
yeah, because it wouldn't be 25.
It was
It
the
ain't even 25
100th
years old yet.
anniversary of the actual event.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, yeah, but we went to see that, and then I went and saw. Actually, it was for my birthday. Actually, is when I went to go see the Terminator 2 version they did of that, and that was really cool.
Which was awesome. Man.
Yeah.
Which again, it's no surprise that that era of effects movie lends itself
Yeah.
to 3D and would be re-released in 3D. So is this what you're referring to in terms of the last
it's okay.
set piece?
It's just I don't know. I think that the greatest sequences in the movie are, I guess, just not this one. I don't know. It's like some of those other ones are a little better.
Well, wasn't this an addendum the movie made to the book? Was like this whole last the T-Rex
this
versus
stuff
the
wasn't.
Raptors?
Yeah, this stuff really wasn't in the book as far as they went and found the raptor stuff. Like the end. Yeah, the climax of the book was different. So this is a better one even than that is, I think. But.
You would think they would have heard the T-Rex.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's in Sneak King mode.
Right,
I guess.
Sneak King mode. Like, it was on a gargoyle somewhere, like a Batman Arkham game or something. How crappy that Jeep is.
After careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park. So have I.
So he admits it ain't working out.
He's like, all right, I admit it. Like,
What else do you want? Like
reparations? Like,
this image though, like. So he gets the championship belt. Jurassic Park defamed.
so I thought that said
muddied.
that said solemn instrumental music. I said golem instrumental music. Like from the Golem, the original film from the 20s or 1500s. What? The teens. I love how he's like, oh, he gets scared like in this moment, like startled. Oh my god.
Well, all that money.
Yeah.
And throw that in the
You
trash.
can put a waterfall there, but
Melancholic instrumental music. Well, what times we had.
you know what would have been funny is if he like ripped it off and threw it out the window into the ocean or something. And yeah. By the way, this is something we never talked about. Wouldn't you think it would be really hard to like find something like that, like a mosquito and amber, that specifically those ones that had the dino DNA in it? How long that would have taken? Well, first of all, I don't even know if that's even possible. But you know.
Yeah. No Morning for Gennaro. It doesn't look like. You know.
Great John Williams piece here. End
Yeah.
it where we began.
Yeah.
Talking about John Williams. But yeah, this is a really good score, though. I think it's up there, one of his top ones for Spielberg. Except the Jaws one, I think, is one of the best ones. But see the old animals. Animals. Birds.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
They do move in herds. Like,
And he's like, oh, look at that. Like,
what times we had. This is just such a what times we had kind of movie.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, remember that time we almost all died, from dinosaurs?
Engine.
And so what's interesting is it kind of strikes this nice, sweet note
Yeah.
at the end. It's like, well...
Yeah, they didn't, first of all, napalm the whole island. They didn't have a whole scene at the end when they're back on land and Gennaro's like calling people like, we need to get this stuff straightened out. Like,
Yeah.
So, yep.
There we go.
That's Jurassic Park.
Gerald R. Mullen. Now, Kathleen Kennedy, of course, one of for the longest time one of Spielberg's biggest producers. Of course, now in charge of Lucasfilm. And interestingly, Frank Marshall. I don't guess wasn't a producer on this because usually Marshall and Kennedy produced all of Spielberg's movies, really from Raiders movie forward.
Didn't Frank Marshall direct Congo?
Yeah,
that other.
It might have been right around this time. I don't know the year, but it could have been. That might have been why. I don't know. But yeah,
that was, of course, Stop Eating My Sesame Cake, that's not even a movie I've seen, but I think that was in Congo.
I think it is.
Yeah. Wow, Samuel L. Jackson, Wayne Knight. Can't wait to see Wayne Knight again on this podcast.
Yeah, we'll get around to him eventually. Dean Cundey.
So, I guess what's there really to say? It's great.
I'd be interested to know, where does this rank in terms of Michael Kahn, it should also be said, is a longtime Spielberg editor. Where does this rank for you in terms of Spielberg's kind of career, your own personal ranking?
Well,
maybe favorites or best.
Yeah, I think my favorite is Jaws, then probably after that's Close Encounters, I really love. I don't know. I mean, it's up there. It's in the top so many. Trying to think.
I know my number one would also probably be Jaws. Number two for me would be E.T.
That's
perhaps.
up there for me,
Raiders
too,
of the Lost Ark, probably 3.
That would be up there.
Close Encounters is a movie that I never disliked. I've always liked, but it's really grown on me over the last few years, and I quite love it now a lot. So that would also be up there. I really love Lincoln a lot. I think as far as his most recent movies and more historical event movies,
that would be a good. If we're going to return to him at some point, that would be a good movie.
I think that movie has perhaps the greatest cast ever in any movie, from the top to the bottom. I mean, so I really love that. I really love Bridge of Spies. I mean, he's transitioned into being older director, I think, for the most part. Some of his more weaker movies have been, quite frankly, some of the more recent ones where he's tried to go back to the well of making this type of movie again. Yeah. Whether it be Ready Player One or the BFG, which wasn't bad, but wasn't particularly memorable in any way.
Yeah.
10-10, fine, but doesn't really strike a chord. But I mean, this was him at his height in terms of making this brand of movie. And he had a really good 2000s, I think, too. I mean, Catch Me If You Can's quite good.
I actually still haven't seen
Munich's
that.
quite good. So you know, he's made and there's a lot of cynicism, I feel like, with Spielberg in terms of people thinking he's, turned Hollywood in a certain direction, this and that. I mean, as you said at the top, I think he's among the greatest filmmakers not only America's ever produced, but any nation's ever produced. And they're not all hits, or hits in the sense of awesome, great movies, but the sheer level of those at the top of his career, and even more mid-tier movies that could maybe not, you remember as often or as eagerly. Say, like, just take for example, maybe his segment from Twilight Zone movie, or Empire of the Sun. Movies that you don't immediately think of from him are still as well made as they are, and still have that Spielberg touch. So I still very much stand by the fact that I think he's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And again, this fits very comfortably towards the top of the list, I think.
Yeah.
And the effects, again, they might not be as on point, but the filmmaking's great. You got the right actors at the right time, and so very much stands the test of time, I think, to this day.
Yep, agree with all that.
Anything else we'll add before we?
Well, let me find that one section about when Nedry died, because that's just something that needs to be read out loud. It's funny. I actually found out today I still do own this book, actually. So.
And while you're looking for that, I want to read from Bill Jabari's ending that he wrote for the re-release also, that I thought was quite good.
Go ahead and mute this. Because it's just the great music of John Wayne. So yeah, let's see. This is where he had, if you remember, of course, where Nedry was going to die. I'll read the last end here. He stretched out his hands, waving them wildly in the air to ward off the attack he knew was coming. And then there was a new searing pain, like a fiery knife in his belly, and Nedry stumbled, reaching blindly down to touch the ragged edge of his shirt, and then a thick, slippery mass that was surprisingly warm, and with horror he suddenly knew he was holding his own intestines in his hands. The dinosaur had torn him open. His guts had fallen out. Nedry fell to the ground and landed on something scaly and cold. It was the animal's foot. And then there was new pain on both sides of his head. The pain grew worse, and as he was lifted to his feet, he knew the dinosaur had his head in its jaws, and the horror of that realization was followed by a final wish that it would all be ended soon.
Well,
so, yeah, at least we were spared that.
Which, of course, that wouldn't fly really in a PG-13
No.
anyways.
No.
At least of this time.
Yep.
So this is from...
Maybe it would today, I don't know. What does PG-13 even mean nowadays?
Yeah, it's been incredibly watered down. But this is from the end of... Bill Jabiri wrote a review for the 3D re-release.
For Vulture.
For Vulture.com. The last paragraph I thought was a really good summation of this movie. Of course, all of that how does it play 20 years talk is a bit of a gimmick in itself. Jurassic Park never really went away. The intervening years gave us 2 sequels, all of which pop up incessantly on cable, and lots of movies have borrowed from it along the way. But what's perhaps most memorable about it now, aside from the thrills, which are still there, is how slightly deprived of its unimpeachable high-tech newness. It feels more clearly personal, more like the work of an artist pushing his relationship with an immense audience. Watching it, we can sense Spielberg trying his damnedest to take this wide-eyed blockbuster into curiously dark corners. He would display that same darkness, of kind of glorious sadism, really, in Jurassic Park's much-maligned, underrated sequel, The Lost World. We also saw it in the earlier Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the movie that helped invent the PG-13 rating, speaking of PG-13. Yep. The real reason Jurassic Park still works so well is that it was made by a filmmaker who knows that sometimes art, even the ultimately reassuring, box office friendly kind, has to hurt us a little bit to make a real impact, which I think is a really good summation of a lot of the things that this movie's playing with. It's here to kind of scare us. It's here to be kind of wrap us in awe.
Yeah.
It's here to show us something we've never seen before, and by way of taking us to some of the most primordial, prehistorical figures that are the dinosaurs. So,
yep.
I just think all those elements combined to make this, again, an incredibly rewatchable thing. Again, we kind of laugh maybe about some of the fashions of the time. The interactive CD-ROM, but it feels like in a lot of ways it could have been made yesterday in terms of how high quality the filmmaking is, or any era.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, so Jurassic Park's great.
You didn't need to listen to 2.5 hours to know that, probably.
But yeah, it still holds up. Every time I see it, it's still good. And like I said, the more you look at blockbusters that are made today, and you go back to The Whale, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's better than normal stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So that's going to do it for us today on the Overlapping Dialogue. Hopefully you had a good time, and hopefully you had fun watching this with us. Our next film, it's interesting that we're kind of following this up from that, but when we were doing the order of this is the one that most immediately jumped to mind in some ways. The next film we're going to do is American Graffiti, which was made 20 years before this.
The ultimate, the times we've had.
Movie. Yeah, 1973, from one of Steven Spielberg's best friends, George Lucas, who we have a lot of thoughts and a lot of love for him that we're going to be exploring
absolutely.
At the top of that podcast, but also with that movie itself. So, again, this is Kyle.
This is Levi.
And we're signing off today, and take care. God bless.
Something big is coming to McDonald's. Something of such enormous proportions. It could only be called the Jurassic Park Extra Value Meal.
Okay, let's eat!
An enormously juicy triple cheeseburger with fries and a medium drink in one of 6 free Jurassic Park collector cups. The Jurassic Park Extra Value Meal. A dino-sized value for a dino-sized appetite.
Hey, where's mine?
What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
All right.